on this episode of Postcards.
I think filmmaking is an art form because you're using a camera to tell a visual story. Instead of painting a picture or writing a book, you're actually telling a story through an image, moving images. And that is one of the things that I feel like is one of my strong suits, is to be able to tell an interesting story, keep people captivated, and keep people guessing on what's going to happen next.
This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. Live Wide Open, a regional movement that encourages people to make a great life for themselves in west central Minnesota. More at livewideopen.com. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com.
So I got into filmmaking back in 2010. My dad gave me and my brother one of those old like VHS tape kind of cameras, and we just started making like YouTube videos. And they're really dumb to begin with, but we kept on building like the story and the characters and the quality. And eventually, 2013, I decided I wanted to make a feature. And so I went on Kickstarter, raised $655, and we made Mousetrap 1. And that was kind of the beginning of the film career, is when I made my first feature film.
I think he's gone. Yeah. You guys ever heard the story of Maria Johnson?
No. Who's that?
Well, it happened about 20 years ago. She used to go to school here. She was a very lonely girl. She would tell the teacher she had to go to the bathroom, but she would actually go and explore the school. One day she left class early and went to look around. She felt a little stranger that day for some reason and decided to go to the 3rd floor. She climbed up the stairs, then went down the steps by the auditorium. She climbed into the attic above the seats and played in the rafters. She liked the spot. She liked it a lot. She went back this very next day. She wanted to go further this time, though, to the depths of the attic.
Well, what happened?
Hold on a second. I'm getting to that part. Anyways, she climbed out further than usual. When she got close to the end, she felt the boards cracking. She tried to step back, but it was too late.
Well, did she fall?
Of course! The board split in half.
There was no training, or no actual formal training. It was all watching YouTube videos and figuring out whatever I could learn from that. You know, a lot of Film Riot and those guys just teaching you how to do camera angles and how to build film equipment if you couldn't afford it. Like me and my dad built a camera crane out of PVC pipe, and just trying to, we didn't have the money for it, so we had to figure out how to make it work. Because I had the dream, the money just wasn't there. Had to make it work somehow.
Oh man, oh you got me. Oh you idiots. You got me. Shh, light up.
After we made Mousetrap 1, that was kind of the beginning, because I'm like, there's something here. We can do a lot more than a YouTube video. We can reach a lot broader of an audience, because a lot more people came out for the feature film than, let's say, that would watch a YouTube video. And so I kind of realized that we can take a story that I have and I can get people from the community to help, to be the cast, to be the crew, and we can make quality work that people from all over the world can see. And that's kind of why I got into doing it, and then I'm like, we need to make Mousetrap 2. So it was kind of from Mousetrap that I decided that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and then we kept on going from there, and it just kept building. And action. Something caught me right when we started, and I don't really know how to explain it, but it was the ability to be able to tell stories and get them out to everywhere, all over the world, that kind of brought me into it. I kind of realized that there's a lot more here than just putting friends in front of a camera and seeing what happens. There's actually the ability to move people, change their opinion on something, and tell a great story that kind of made me realize that there's something here that I want to do for the rest of my life.
2 hours later.
Windham, Minnesota is right on the border of Iowa, pretty much, way southwest Minnesota, and it is your typical rural community, agricultural community. So you have a lot of people who are willing to help, and a lot of people who are, have free time to help others out in the community. It's Minnesota nice. So we were able to get a lot of local people, pretty much all local people, to be the cast and the crew, and dedicate a lot of their time over the past couple of years to help me, whether that was being an extra or holding a boom mic or holding a camera. So a lot of people just came out because they wanted to help me and develop my career as a filmmaker.
Growing up in Windham, you kind of got, everybody knows everybody. First time I met Ethan was, I was hanging out with one of my buds actually, who lived across the street from him. And Ethan, he was working on one of his YouTube videos. It was a weekly episode called Ethan Clare Magic Weekly. And he did these magic tricks. And he'd always have a little small audience of the neighborhood kids. They'd come in and he'd videotape it and he'd put that online. And that was probably one of the memorable moments I had with him. And then it wasn't until later, we actually had band class together, so it would have been my freshman year, my first year actually like being in a class with him, because we were both drummers actually. And that's when we really built our friendship, and so we've been friends now for a good 4 or 5 years, and that's when we really started working together to prepare some of these films, short films, and eventually Cottonwood, the feature film. I'm the best bottle flipper there ever was.
Oh, really?
Told you I was the best water bottle flipper.
Hey, Dalton, you want to go get some McDonald's?
Yeah, let's get some donuts. Nice. Let's go. You know, I can't say I want to be a filmmaker, but I definitely like contributing to it. Let's get the game.
Starting with Mousetrap, it is about a group of kids who get dared to spend the night in an abandoned school, the Bark. There's a killer janitor that lives inside, and they have to they're going in there to prove to people that he exists. And that movie was made back in 2013, and it was my first movie, so I didn't have any experience at all, actually. So we were learning a lot, and that was with audio and with the camera, and the crew was kind of changing at that point too. So there was a lot of learning with Mousetrap, But I think it kind of developed a lot of the skills that I would bring into Mousetrap 2, which is my second feature film. Made that in 2014 and 15. And that is a sequel to Mousetrap, and the janitor from the school gets captured by the police and actually escapes, comes back to the school and takes one of the girlfriends hostage, and so the kids have to go in and try to save her. And Mousetrap 2, that was kind of the big step for me, because Mousetrap 1 was kind of, I would call it more of a YouTube video than a feature film. It's a longer form, but we didn't have the right talent or equipment to pull that off. Where Mousetrap 2, we brought in a lot more people, we raised more money, we were able to make a lot more happen, and that's why I think that Mousetrap 2 was really the big starting point for the feature films. My favorite scene in Mousetrap 2 is probably the car chase, car crash scene. I'm a big action guy. I love to do action-adventure kind of stuff. And so when we were able to crash a car and blow it up for Mousetrap 2, it was a big moment for me, and I really realized you don't need a lot of money to make something pretty big happen. So we were able to buy a cheap car and flip it down a hill and then load it up with tannerite and blow it up. And that's kind of what you're seeing in this scene, is a big movie moment for barely any money. So I was very proud of how that turned out.
Hey, he's coming! Oh, crap!
Guys, where are ya?
Riley, I'm over here.
Guys, it's burning, it's gonna blow!
The BARC Center in Windham stands for Business, Arts, and Recreation Center. It's a community center of sorts. Used to be the old high school, and back in 2000 it was bought for $1, and a group of people took it over and kind of transformed it into a building that could be used for arts and recreation. So they used the gym for volleyball, basketball, they used the auditorium for different events, and that's where we were able to show the movie. Cottonwood and Sundog both premiered in the auditorium. And BARC has been a huge partner for me because they've believed in me since the beginning. I came here back in 2011, I think, and I talked to Greg Warner, and he kind of gave me access of the BARC to film wherever we wanted. And so we've used it for pretty much every movie and every short film. We come in here, use the auditorium or the gym or the library or different rooms for pretty much whatever we need. And I don't think I could have pulled off all the movies without the BARC and their partnership with me. for Sundog, my third feature film, we ended up taking it to Chicago, and that was a whole nother experience than filming in Windham, obviously. And so we had to learn a lot from doing that, traveling with a crew and a cast and crew, and figuring out how we were going to take the small production and bring it on the road. And so when we got to Chicago, we kind of had to figure out what do we have permission to do and what do we not have permission to do, because it's not like Windham where you can go on the street and film whatever you want. And so we got there and kind of started filming stuff, and we got in trouble sometimes for being places we weren't allowed to be, but we ended up pulling together quite a production in Chicago that I was really proud of that sequence of the movie. All the stuff we did in Chicago, I was really proud with how that turned out.
Hey!
Sundog is about a corrupt CIA agent who gets into some trouble, and he needs to get information about himself offline. So he runs into these teens who created a code that can delete anyone or anything off the internet, and he tries getting it from them, but they're not willing to work with him, and so he kind of threatens to go after them, and it's kind of a cat and mouse chase, and they end up going to Chicago to flee away from him. He finds them, they come back to Windham, and it's kind of one of those classic good guy, bad guy movies where the kids are trying to get away from this evil CIA agent who is not in anything for good.
You're going to give me my money in nice, neat stacks of hundreds. Then we will get the device.
I don't think you understand. I could have you killed right now. You are an American government official selling illegal government arms to a terrorist group.
I'm not laughing anymore. Now, someone is going to get me my money, or we're going to have a bigger mess. They should have just given me the money.
Cottonwood is the biggest one. That's my 4th feature film, and that is kind of the culmination of everything I've been working on for the past 4 or 5 years now. All the talent and the cast and crew all coming together to kind of pull off one big, great film that took place in Windham, Mankato.
Cut. And then does he just leave Ben done?
Yeah, let's try it one more time. Hand.
Cottonwood is about a detective who's in the middle of a murder investigation who gets in a car accident and forgets everything. And so they bring on a younger detective to try and solve the crimes, but he can't really get any traction, so he has to work with the older detective to try to bring his memory back to solve the murders.
So, this George guy, apparently you two are pretty good friends.
Yeah, George Carlson. You say he's a farmer?
Yeah, he actually lives about 5 miles up the road.
You know, it's very frustrating not to be able to remember anything. But I still feel like I have some pretty good instincts for police work.
Oh, of course you do, sir.
Just call me Rich.
Okay, Rich.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like it could come back to me. My daughter was showing me old photographs of my wife, and I started to get this feeling, like the memory was right there, but I just couldn't bring it into focus.
I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Well, how is it after a year that I've still got nowhere with this?
Rich, I'm going to be honest with you. I was looking through the files the other day, and you didn't have much to go off of.
I've got to come back on board with this thing and help you solve this investigation.
Rich, I don't know. Chief Goodwin said that
after I get done with this, then I'm done. I'll retire. But I know that I'm just not going to be able to live with myself until I figure out who killed my wife and what happened to the 3 others.
Okay, Rich. Okay.
My role in Cottonwood was kind of the bigger contribution that I had, and at first I was just kind of one of the helpers, like I would help set up lights and equipment and stuff. And then the actual assistant director that he had, he couldn't make the time commitment. So he asked me to do it, and I was like, I think I was ready for it, and I fulfilled that position.
Something I really like about Cottonwood is our scenes we filmed in Mankato. We went to this abandoned restaurant in a cave there, and it was one of those nights where I thought everything was going to go wrong, and it ended up turning out to be one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. Really suspenseful, really creepy, and keeping the whole atmosphere that I was building up for this entire film to kind of come together for this scene. So I was really proud of how the Mankato scenes turned out for Cottonwood.
What's really influential is like the end product, because a lot of the people that like show up for the film and like watch the movie and the premiere, they don't know the work that we put into that. It makes you think, is all this time that I'm putting in to help him, all these 6-8 hour days and whatnot, is it really going to be worth it for this final project? And once I finally saw it, you know, I really thought that what I had done was a good thing, and it was nice to help him out. And I almost kind of like want to thank him, and I appreciate that he asked me to come on and join his little crew and team to help make this.
I think the biggest thing to the art of suspense is distraction. I feel like putting something in the film or whatever art form it is to make people think something different is the biggest thing for building suspense. If you think something is going to happen, opposite thing happens, your whole mindset changes. And that's kind of what I did with Cottonwood. There's different characters that come into the movie and you think this person's the one who did it, and you keep thinking that the whole movie, it keeps building the suspense. Last minute, everything changes and it's not what you thought. So I think distraction is the biggest thing with building suspense. I think filmmaking is an art form because you're using a camera to tell a visual story. Instead of painting a picture or writing a book, you're actually telling a story through an image, moving images. And so the ability to do that, I feel like, is an art form that not everyone can pick up or figure out. And that is one of the things that I feel like is one of my strong suits, is to be able to tell an interesting story, keep people captivated, and keep people guessing on what's going to happen next through a camera and through actors and directing them. That's kind of what I think. The biggest reason I want to stay here is because there hasn't been a lot done in Minnesota, and I think there's a huge market for it. That is the biggest thing for me. If I can tell a lot of stories that haven't been told, people are interested. When I started making movies back in 2010, I thought that I needed to go to Hollywood for anything to work out or for me to become successful. But I think over the past couple of years, what I've really learned is you can tell a great story anywhere. You just have to have the talent and the ability to network with people and make connections that you can really make it anywhere and tell great stories anywhere. So staying in Minnesota became something that I'm very passionate about and I want to continue to do and tell great stories in Minnesota. And I feel like this is my goal and this is what I was meant to do here. So I'm going to continue doing it and hopefully people are going to stay interested and help me out along the way.
Visit pioneer.org/postcards to catch up on missed episodes and to find out more about your favorite segments. This program on Pioneer Public Television is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org. Live Wide Open, a regional movement that encourages people to make a great life for themselves in west central Minnesota. More at livewideopen.com. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com.